Namaste, everybody, and welcome to this session. In this session, we're going to be doing analytical meditation on anger and attachment, and I'm going to talk about verses, what was it, 20 and 21 of the 37 practices, which cover anger and aversion, anger and attachment. So today, I want to talk about two things that cause us the most emotional and psychological suffering in our lives. So, I've mentioned on many occasions that the biggest part of our suffering, emotional and psychological suffering, is caused by ourselves, is caused by our thought processes. So, it follows then if we change our thought processes, then we'll be able to reduce our psychological and emotional suffering. Two of the most powerful things that cause us this suffering: attachment and anger. So we'll look at anger first. So in the 37 practices, verse 20, it states that the practice of all people on the path to awakening is to subdue the mind with the forces of loving kindness and compassion. For unless the real adversary, our own anger, is defeated, outer enemies will continue to appear. So I'll read that last part again. Unless the real adversary, our own anger, is defeated, so unless we defeat our own anger, then the outer enemies will continue to appear. If you have no anger inside, you will have no enemies outside. The enemies outside only come about because of our anger inside. A key point here to understand is that anger is ours. It belongs to us. It's our anger. We have a choice. We get angry, we don't get angry. But what we don't have a choice in doing is blaming somebody else for our anger. If somebody tries to make you angry and you don't become angry, you don't want to become angry, then they've failed in their mission. The choice is ours to get angry, but we shouldn't go looking and blaming for other people, because the more that we look outside and blame people for our anger, the less that we'll ever be able to work on our angry thought processes, because it's just a cop out. It's just a way of saying, oh, they made me angry, and then it's okay, job done. I've portioned the blame. It's all their fault. They're the ones that made me angry. Nothing to do with me. I don't have to change because I didn't do anything wrong. We all talk like this. But how are we ever going to move forward if we continue to talk like this? We can't. So we have to understand the anger is our anger. If somebody else is angry, it's their anger. It's not yours. You have your own anger and you have that choice. Am I going to let that anger come out or not? Or am I just going to let it go? So with anger, a lot of people think we have two choices. We can either suppress it or we can let it out. Both of them are dangerous. The more that you suppress that anger, the more that it will bubble up inside of you. And the more that it does that, it's going to affect your whole well-being. It will affect you emotionally, psychologically, and physically. It can bring on many different illnesses when we keep our anger suppressed. So suppression is not the answer. If we constantly let that anger out, the more that we let it out, the more that it becomes a habit. And the more that habit grows, the more it becomes our behavior. It becomes our character, who we are. We are an angry person now. And that's because we constantly let that anger out. So we shouldn't be looking to suppress the anger, and we shouldn't be looking to let that anger out. We should be looking to let it go, catch it, let it go. Let it go means that just leave it, turn away from it, focus on something else, leave it to go. Don't follow it, don't engage it, don't get wrapped up in it. Just leave it be. We can do that. You know, the anger comes from from a thought process. So if we don't follow those negative and angry thought processes, we're not going to get involved with that emotion. But if we just follow every thought, blindly follow every thought, then of course the angry negative ones are going to lead us down the path of becoming more and more angry. Then we become that angry person. So the choice is actually yours. You're either going to allow that anger to come out, or you're going to allow the anger just to go. That is the choice that you have. When we're being mindful, when we're being present with what is going on inside and outside of us, then we have a choice of letting the anger go. We have a choice of responding. If we're not being mindful, if we're not really present with what is going on, and we're not certainly not present with any process that's going on inside of us, then of course we're going to react, and we react from past experiences. So if you've always let anger out, that's the way you're going to react. You'll react by letting that anger come out. When we're being mindful, it gives us a chance to see these processes coming and leave them go and don't get involved with them. We can respond in a different way. But if we're not aware of what's going on inside of us, then we're going to react. If we are aware, we're going to respond. We can respond in a way that we don't get angry. So if you look carefully at anger, what is that anger? Why do we get angry? Mainly it's because we don't get our own way. They're not doing what I want them to do. They don't believe what I believe. They don't follow the same religion or the same political party as me. They don't have the same cultural background as me. Why don't they do what I want to do? If we're honest with ourselves, that's where most of our anger comes from. When people aren't acting or thinking or doing things in the way that we want them to. Now, isn't that selfish? Isn't that self-centered? So that's where your anger is going to stem from: being selfish, being self-centered, being egotistical, narcissistic. All those things are going to lead you into being angry. So we're not just looking at anger here, we're looking at the root of that anger. And the root of that anger has to come from our ego, from protecting us, from thinking that somebody is attacking us, or somebody isn't thinking like we are and they should be thinking like we are. That's where the anger comes from. When we do the analytical meditation in a moment, that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at the last time you got angry, and we're going to break it down, or you are going to break it down and see, where does it stem from? Where is the root of that anger? Because by finding the root of that anger, you'll be able to pull it out. But if you're just going to superficially look at the anger and say, oh, it's their fault, you're just going to cut the top off and it will grow back again. And we cut the top off, it will keep growing back until you pull it out by the roots. Then it's going to keep growing back. It's like a weed in your garden. If you just keep cutting the top off it, it'll grow. If you pull it out by the roots, it cannot grow. And the same for your anger. So when we do the analytical meditation, we're going to look back. You will look back over the last time you really got angry, and then look, why was that? And you know, here we have to be completely honest with ourselves. And if it was that it's all about me, then we need to see that. We need to understand that that anger came from thinking about me. So the second point that we want to look at today is about attachment, which again causes a huge amount of psychological and emotional suffering. We really suffer so badly by holding on to things that we think belong to us. So, verse 21 of the 37 practices says this. So, a person who's on the path to awakening is to turn away immediately from those things which bring desire and attachment. For the pleasures of the senses are just like salty water. The more we taste of them, the more we thirst of them. So, the pleasures of our senses, so the things that we see, we like, we smell, we taste, we hear, we touch, we like. So, the things that are the pleasure of our senses are like drinking salty water. The more that you drink it, the more the thirst grows in you. So, desire in Buddhism is sometimes translated from Pali as thirst. It's a thirst that we can't quench. So, having desires is not a problem in itself. It's clinging to things, getting attached to things, our clinging attachment that causes us problem, getting attached to things. And the more things we get attached to, the more that we bring ourselves suffering. Why is that? Because attachment is about controlling things. Attachment is not about love, and it's certainly not about compassion. It's an emotional thing, really. It's not a logical or a well reasoned thing, which love and compassion should be. Attachment is about emotionally getting attached to somebody, emotionally holding on to somebody or something. This clinging, this holding on, this grasping tight to things causes a huge problem. I mean, just hold your fist tight like that and see, really tight, and see how much strength it takes and how much pain it brings us to really hold them tight. That's what we're doing. We're holding on, we're clinging tightly to things, and it's taking all of our strength away. It's eating into us, it's poisoning our minds. And all of that attachment stems from us again, from being self centered again. It doesn't mean love. Love is watching things grow and being inspired by them. Attachment means like holding on and controlling them. You know, when we lose something, we get very, very upset by it. And in some ways, that's understandable if it's a thing that we use and we need. But if we understand that when we buy something new, it is ours for just a short period of time, it's not ours forever. And when we meet somebody and maybe fall in love with them, or we meet them and become really friendly with them, then they're part of our lives for a very short time. Just because you like them doesn't mean that they're going to spend the whole of their life with you. Things come and things go. And actually, things come to go. When things come, they just naturally go like a flowing river. And when we try to hold on to them, that's when we cause ourselves a huge amount of suffering. And that suffering, again, comes from you. And of course, when we're attached to somebody and they don't do what we want them to do, we suffer, but we're only suffering through our own expectations. It's not their expectation. It's not even that we're caring about them. It's because they didn't do what we want them to do. It's all emotional. So, attachment and holding on tightly to things brings a huge amount of this psychological and emotional suffering. And again, we can stop that because it's us that is causing it. We are causing ourselves to get angry. We are causing ourselves to be attached. Nobody else is doing that. It's only us. So it's only us that can really work on those two things. And if you can work on those two things, anger and attachment, then you can just release a huge amount of physical, psychological and emotional suffering in your life. You can do that. So we don't have to wait for some God to look down on us and bless us. We don't have to wait for some spiritual teacher to come along and tell us exactly what to do. We have all we need inside of us. It is us that's getting angry. It's us that's getting attached. So we need to analyze that. We need to look at that. So in the meditation we're going to do, we'll look at anger, the last time you got angry, and look back and see if you can break it down, if you can go to the root cause of that. And then we're going to look at attachment and think of something that we're really attached to, and then look at the root of that, because you'll also find the root of that is self-centeredness. It's about you, it's not about them. We might say, oh yes, I'm attached to this person because I love them, I'm attached to this person because they're my children. Love and attachment are two separate things, totally separate things. So we're looking at attachment, we're not looking at love. And attachment is all about you, about wanting them to do what you want them to do. Anger comes because we want people to do what we want them to do and they're not doing it. So both of those things stem from our own self-centeredness. Both of those things stem from this ego we have inside of us, this sense of a solid, permanent self. This is how this anger and attachment come. So I want you to think about these points when we go into the meditation now. So of course we don't have all day to sit and analyze, and really this type of analyzing and looking at these two things takes a long time. We can't just maybe in the next couple of minutes look, but I want to just push you in the right direction. So then when you're on your own and you have time and you're doing your meditation, you can look more closely, longer, and go deeper. I'm only now just giving you a sense of it so you can go and do it on your own later on. Okay. So sit nice and comfortably, back straight, shoulders dropped, arms, hands and arms comfortable, eyes lightly closed. And I want you to think of a time when you were angry last. So when you really got angry, just bring that situation into your mind when you got angry last. And as you're bringing this into your mind, remember to bring it in with compassion and kindness for yourself. Don't get yourself all upset about being angry in the past. And now you've brought the angry experience into your mind, I want you to look deeply inside of you. So this is not a blame game. We're not blaming anybody outside, and we're not blaming ourselves. There's no blame here. We're just looking at what is the root cause? What made me get angry? So we've only got a few minutes, but I just want you to sit quietly and start analyzing, why did you become angry? What is the root of that anger? So now let's look at our attachment. I want you to think of a person you're attached to. And then I want you to look at the root of that attachment. Now, I know there may be some kindness there, some compassion, some love. We're not looking at that. We're looking at the attachment part of it. So be honest with yourself and analyze, why are you attached to this person? And go really deep inside. Ask yourself these questions and go deeper to find the root of this attachment. Okay, so just very slowly start to open your eyes and look down on the floor in front of you. Just sit there a moment looking down. And then just slowly move your head up. So I apologize. I know that it's not long enough and you may have just started to look and then I stopped you. I just wanted to give you the idea of, this is how you should be looking at your anger and looking at your attachment. So now you can do the analyzing part of the meditation on your own, in your own time, and for as long as you need to do it. And, probably over a period of many days, you're going to have to keep looking at these points. And when attachment comes up, then look at that. And when anger comes up, look at that and try to break it down and get to the root cause of these. By getting to the root cause, you're going to be able to let them go. And then you just release a huge amount of psychological and emotional suffering. It just goes. So remember that you'll never get rid of your outside enemies until you get rid of your inside anger. And you'll never be able to truly love somebody until you let go of that inside attachment. So you need to look inside of you of anger and attachment and find the root cause, put it up and let it go. So I hope this session has been helpful for you. And I look forward to seeing you again in another session. But until then, thank you for joining me and namaste.